Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. Quick shout out to my newest patrons, William B. and ENS. Thank you for choosing to support the channel. I'm sure many of you are sick of hearing about the Super Bowl. Just real quick though, in case you missed it, yes, during the hour when some of these EV ads for non-Tesla vehicles were running, the search volume for GM, Tesla, and EVs in general did of course spike during that hour. I'm not going to dive into the nuances of Google's search terms in general, just know that yes, around 7:30 Tesla did indeed see a spike in search interest on Google from around 50 up to a peak of 100. This should come as no surprise though, because in Tesla's financial results, they literally showed us the exact same thing happened after the Super Bowl last year. In response, one of Tesla's board members, Hiro Mizuno, said benefiting from the real market leadership. Some of you may have seen this Popeyes commercial where a Tesla Model Y was in the background with these modified door handles. No, this is not going to be a change for a production version. It was just something to try to dress down the Tesla-ness of this vehicle in this ad, in my opinion. Elon was spotted at the Super Bowl sitting next to Rupert Murdoch and his daughter Elizabeth Murdoch. Great to see Elon hopefully relaxing, and yes, Rupert Murdoch does own a media conglomerate and owns publications like Fox News, The Wall Street Journal, and others. And quickly, depending on what region you're in, you may have seen this Tesla hit piece from Dan O'Dowd. It is a waste of your time. We're not going to get into it again. Just know Elon's response to this was a laughing emoji, and ours should try to be the same, even though it's frustrating. And for what it's worth, Ray for Tesla did take some screenshots from Dan O'Dowd's hit piece, and as you can see, there are warning messages that he was asking Dan what they were. No response as far as I can tell. I would just highlight that typically when you press the accelerator to override the system, you can get one of these warning messages. Just in case you're new, yes, Dan O'Dowd does own a direct competitor to Tesla in the form of Green Hills Software, who makes automotive ADAS systems. Just a quick fun fact, Elon was an executive producer alongside David Sachs of the movie Thank You for Smoking, to which Elon said actual reality of lobbying is crazier than the movie. Over the last few days in the United States, Tesla has increased or lowered the prices of certain trims by around $500 in multiple increments. For example, the Model Y Performance is now $1,000 more expensive after two separate $500 price bumps over the last few days. So here are the updated prices, and the long-range Model 3 that is still grayed out is supposed to be available this year, Project Highland. But yes, this is indeed different than the Generation 3 platform. That should be for the Robotaxi, a more affordable vehicle, completely separate from the new Model 3 refresh Project Highland long-range variant vehicle. Don't ever forget, Tesla is always adjusting its prices to keep up in real time with input cost fluctuations. This chart from Visual Capitalist shows us the annual returns for different elements like lithium, aluminum, copper, nickel, etc. Just looking at one element, lithium, over the last 10 years, what it's done every year, it's been all over the map. Some years down between 40 and 50%, other years up over 440%. This is something Tesla is always trying to balance for. On Friday, in a Twitter space, Ross Gerber made it official. He said he will formally announce his plans to run for Tesla's board of directors this week. He also said, I've realized over the years with Elon, he's very thin-skinned. I've kind of had enough. I'm only sharing this so that all of you Tesla shareholders can prepare yourselves for a possible upcoming vote on Ross being voted to the Tesla board. Ross has said that essentially he wants to rein in Elon. He's mentioned how Twitter is a conflict of interest. He's brought up concerns over Elon's compensation and how he's spending his time at Tesla, aka he thinks it has not been enough. He wants to work on a succession plan for Elon, which I would just add Elon may already have one of those without Ross. And he's mentioned having greater clarity on insider stock sales and Elon not selling large blocks of Tesla stock on the open market, which can have some negative impacts. I really don't want to sway your vote. I just want you to educate yourself on everything that Ross has said publicly over the past year. But because people have already asked me just to share, no, personally, I would not support this move of having Ross on the board. Here's the most recent 13F filing from Gerber Kawasaki Wealth Management. At the end of 2022, their biggest holding was Tesla stock, coming in just under 5% of the fund. To me, given that conflict of interest that Ross has to cater to his shareholders and every year has to explain Tesla stock performance, which we know can often be detached from Tesla's fundamentals and their long-term vision, I personally see Ross as more of a short-term thinker who may not be completely aligned with the long-term vision. But usually the way this works, Tesla has a corporate governance board that will nominate upcoming people for the board, to which then Tesla shareholders will actually vote on those nominations. But right now, Tesla's board has 8 members and they each get 3-year terms that are not capped at that 3-year limit. I'm not trying to argue that Tesla's current board has been perfect. I'm personally just saying that for me, Ross would not be my choice for somebody to represent Tesla's retail shareholders. But again, DYOR, just in case we all are voting on this sometime this year. Some people have been reporting problems using Netflix in the Tesla UI. However, direct from the Netflix website, it looks like it's still available through the dashboard in a Tesla vehicle. From Drive Tesla Canada, it's true that Netflix has been cracking down on password sharing. However, a spokesperson reached out to DTC to clarify the impact, and this will not apply to Tesla vehicles. Essentially, the policy would be asking users to connect to their home Wi-Fi at least once per month to authenticate the account. Just note, this is definitely not happening to everyone, so no clear explanation as to what's going on, but we'll keep our eyes open. There was some debate over the weekend on the rates you pay at Tesla superchargers, but direct from their site it says the charging rate is determined by the plug-in time. It does not adjust if pricing changes during the charging session. Let's just say hypothetically the off-peak rates for supercharging starts at 8 p.m. If you plug in at 7:59 p.m., you would be charged the higher on-peak rates. So yes, the official word from Tesla is that your rate for the entire supercharging session is determined when you actually plug in the vehicle. But for what it's worth, in the real world, I have heard people report the opposite. Let me know if you've had this experience either way. On Sunday, Elon said version 11.3 FSD beta single stack goes to limited beta this week, probably 11.3.2 before the wide release in North America. Then they'll adapt for European roads and submit to regulators. 90% of what we've done so far in North America applies worldwide. Elon has said that globally, it's oftentimes the regulatory environment that will hamper Tesla's FSD more than the technology itself, at least to some degree. So to me, it sounds like at least a few weeks still before we get a wide release in North America of FSD version 11. As we've been talking about for weeks, the first Model Y performance customer delivery has finally taken place in Australia. Shout out to Jason. Ferrari's CEO had some nice things to say about Tesla and Elon, crediting them with accelerating the change in an industry steeped in engine cylinders. What they've learned from Tesla, it was a wake-up call. Things used to happen too slowly. Tesla shook up the industry and accelerated processes and decisions. They were faster and more agile. Should sound familiar. With regard to its own EV plans, he said they're fully on track to unveil their first fully electric Ferrari in 2025. It will go into market the following year. He also did say, however, they'll keep offering a mix of technology for as long as it's feasible. But on the electrification movement, he did say this is going to happen. And then he also added electrifying cars is relatively easy from a technological point of view. He also thinks there's too much money being poured into this technology, and this is because there's a lack of deep knowledge. And like we say often on the channel, much of this deep knowledge for EVs, AI, semiconductors, and software is already at Tesla. We get a bit of insight from Toyota's new CEO on their new electrification strategy. Koji Sato, who will take over on April 1st, has said that they're going to focus on Lexus as being the spearheaded brand to focus on the transition to EVs. Toyota will also continue to focus on pursuing a number of different technologies. They're still sending mixed signals though. Here they say this is not a fast pivot toward battery EVs and that there would be further communication in April. But the new CEO also said there's a new sense of urgency in the boardroom, but this is not a reaction to changes in the competitive landscape from rivals from Silicon Valley, aka Tesla. but rather a better channel for Toyota's brand identity and its prowess as a low-cost, efficient manufacturer. And this is not groundbreaking, but Sato also said they must streamline the structure of the car with a BEV-first mindset. We must drastically change the way we do business. But they also said it's not a fast transition, so who knows what's really going on. Just be aware that Saudi Arabia does have plans to make a splash in the EV space this decade. Of course, they'd like to wean the country off the reliance on oil, but their goal is only to produce around 500,000 cars a year by 2030. And they have said Lucid still has plans to produce about 1/4 of that 500,000 figure. And yes, this production being in the kingdom. I just think it'll be an interesting storyline to watch because they're thinking that because they have financial muscle, they can just buy into this EV market. As we know though, a dollar spent by a company like Tesla is very different than a dollar spent by, say, Toyota or GM. But for now, the Saudis think they can buy into it and invest rather than build something from scratch, so we'll see how it plays out. Rivian has hired Michael Callahan as its chief legal officer, and previously he served as the senior VP and general counsel at LinkedIn. Congrats to Zoox, as the California DMV has granted a permit, and yes, this vehicle will be hitting the streets apparently this weekend, which has no manual controls. On Saturday, Zoox had offered a no-cost employee shuttle service, meaning it successfully tested a robotaxi with employees as passengers on a public road. Despite the successful test, we still don't have a timeline for the actual commercial launch, still government clearances ahead. Amazon bought Zoox for $1.3 billion back in 2020, and these vehicles with no controls have room for 4 passengers, 2 facing each other. Today, Ford has made it official they will be moving forward with CATL to make LFP batteries in Michigan at a deal worth up to $3.5 billion. When we reported on this last week, it was only $2.5 billion. An important distinction though, Ford is set to own this new facility through a wholly owned subsidiary, so it won't be a joint venture with CATL, aka Ford will actually get any state level incentives. Ford will be licensing the actual LFP technology from CATL. Ford's chair, Bill Ford, said that the plan is for CATL to help Ford get up to speed so we can build these batteries ourselves. The plant is expected to open in 2026 and employ 2,500 people. Ford's CCO said once production at the Michigan plant begins, the vehicles are expected to qualify for half of the $7,500 federal tax credit because it wouldn't meet the half for material sourcing rules for the batteries. Ford does expect the production of these LFP battery cells to qualify for the federal incentives of $35 per kilowatt hour for cells produced and $10 per module assembled. We should expect to see LFP batteries in the Mach-E later in 2023 and the F-150 Lightning sometime in 2024. It will source those batteries from CATL. Tesla Twitter put together a thread on Giga Berlin showcasing some of the drone footage we've seen in the past. Just wanted to highlight, in the body shop, stamped parts and chassis castings are welded together by 600 plus robots. Each car body is then lifted into the paint shop by one of the largest industrial robots ever, named Godzilla. And here you have it, Tesla Europe saying, "Meet Godzilla." Here you go. Elon just said, looking forward to Tesla Investor Day on March 1st. By this, we mean the broadest definition of investor, as in the people of life and earth. It will be a message of good hope and positivity for the future. And yes, SpaceX has been taking over the cruise industry very quickly over the last few months, as now we have Windstar Cruises announcing they're adding Starlink to their fleet. The company plans to offer Starlink on all of their ships by the middle of this year. CNBC today did upload a new video on the Tesla Semi. I don't think there's anything too revolutionary in this video, but it will be linked below, as I do think some of you may enjoy it. You can find me on Twitter at DylanLoomis22. Please like the video if you did. Hope you guys have a wonderful day, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.